Since we're at the beginning of a new year, I thought it might be nice in this video to go over a few creative exercises that you might find beneficial to give you a little bit of inspiration when you're thinking about the next film that you want to make. You know, filmmaking is just all about getting out there and doing something, making something, putting it out there, learning from your mistakes, not being afraid to fail, and trying new things. But if you're stuck right now, here are a few things that you can try, some creative exercises, just to get the ball rolling and help you create something new in 2021. The first thing to try is to limit yourself to one location. A lot of people think that creativity is born from having, limitless amounts of resources at your disposal. You just do whatever you want to. You have carte blanche and you can be as creative as you want to be and anything can happen. But actually sometimes the opposite is true, that the more restrictions you have, the more creative you can be. And I use the example of an interview I heard with the writer of Back to the Future. And they were faced with having to cut $1 million out of their budget before they went into production for that original movie. And so they had this big, elaborate, climactic scene at a nuclear test site that would send Marty back to the future. But they realized that they could get rid of that entire scene, save the money they needed to save, and they ended up with something completely different and better for the story, and that was the whole lightning and the clock tower sequence. So sometimes your limitations can help you find creative solutions that are even better. So try limiting yourself to one location. What type of story can you tell in one spot? And start there and see what happens. The second thing you might try is looking at directors that you already admire and look at their visual style. Look at their storytelling techniques and see if you can't emulate something that they've already done. Because sometimes when you're first starting out, and even if you've been doing it for several years, looking at what someone else is doing and trying to see how they tell a story, whether it be visually or through the dialogue or through character blocking, just whatever that may be. Sometimes by looking at your favorite directors, you can really learn something new about how you can tell your own stories and make your own films. Another exercise you might try is improvisation. Maybe you have a solid beginning, an ending, maybe you're unclear about where the middle part of your film is, or maybe you just have a scenario, just some sort of premise. Well, why don't you try getting together some actors with improvisational experience, get them together, give them just a bit of direction, where you see the scenario taking you, where you see the characters, a little bit about who they are, and then just roll with it and experiment and see what happens. Next, why don't you try working in a genre that you're not really a big fan of? Nothing can really stretch your creative legs than really getting involved in something that you're really uncomfortable with at first. And you might be able to find some new skills, some hidden talents that you didn't know that you had about how to tell a particular story in a different genre that maybe you just haven't liked up until this point. You might want to start out by looking at some directors of the genre that you're interested in experimenting with, and just kind of see how they do it. But in the end, just be comfortable getting uncomfortable, and that can lead to something pretty remarkable at times. Another way to limit yourself as a filmmaker is to participate in a 48-hour filmmaking competition. Now, these competitions are all over the world. Maybe there's one in your community, or maybe there's one nearby that you can get to. But if you haven't participated in one, go ahead and do it. They're a lot of fun, really gets the adrenaline going, really forces you to make a film quickly. Is it going to be perfect? Absolutely not. But it does limit you, and therefore, through those limitations, you're forced to come up with something really creative. Maybe you don't want to give yourself only 48 hours to put something together. Maybe you want to give yourself a week, maybe even just an afternoon. Just limit the time it takes to make something, because once you limit yourself, you're forced with your own deadline. You're forced to make something happen, and it can be a really good way to get something out, started and get a film made. And the last thing you might want to try is, go to an art museum and find something that really strikes you. Create a story from what you're seeing on the canvas. In like manner, you could also try, going through the music that's in your library, listening to it, spend some time with that music. Maybe there's a section of lyrics that really move you in some way and inspire you, and maybe there's something that you want to write that's based on something that you've heard in your music library. And so these are just a few exercises that you might try to kick things off here in 2021. I'd love to hear from you as well. So in the comments section, be sure to write down a few things that have worked for you in the past, maybe some exercises, some other creative things that we can all try in order to make new and better films. As always, click subscribe so you know exactly when new videos are posted. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.